Interpretation of the dream of the Shem Maphorash Roundtable and Disc of Goetic Slices between 2:40 and 4:28 a.m. on Sunday, June 21st, 2015. The sunrise of the summer solstice in my area is 54 degrees northeast, and the sunset was 306 degrees northwest. On December 21st this year, the sunrise will be 124 degrees southeast, and the sunset will be 236 degrees southwest. This dream, as in the circle, each degree of the circle gets its own thing, because obviously there's only 90 degrees in each quadrant, but yeah. This dream and the announcement of the next worship service came during the period of the year for Taurus, and that fits in well with the theme about having a teacher. If the decanta of that 36th of the year is viewed as Saturn in Taurus, it indicates that I stand apart in the role of spiritual guide and counselor when compared to even the Eckankar clergy there, which were all members for over 20 years. If the decant of that 36th year is viewed as Sun in Taurus, then it indicates my reputation in the great work is established both inside and outside Eckankar membership. And I know they turn to Eckankar for their dogma before people like me or anything like that, so I'm not saying anything like that. It was the brightest day of the year, and I like to decorate at the 8 points of the year according to the season. At the summer solstice, I place a white tablecloth on my bedroom altar, then is red, blue, orange, black, purple, green, and yellow. The table, as a sun symbol, also shows independence and first-hand material. The white round table, which was in the middle of this, symbolizes a brotherhood with an attempt at purity of experience and following guidance. The double cube-shaped room represented a golden wisdom temple. We bring in our own inner guidance to the wisdom temple that is ourselves by permission of God. The pictures represent the abomination of desolation, which is usually more of a misuse rather than a thing's nature. The trying to hide the pictures of Darwin Gross represents covering the truth. The diamond shape represents the aragi, or detachment and healing. Oh, isn't it diamond, vairagi? Doesn't that mean diamond? I can sometimes jumble some terms. The light bounces off those who understand and act on spiritual matters without the worship of personalities or creations and such things. Here, the Goetia symbols, being the foundations, is of how Eckankar is a spiritual protection cult. Eckankar is based on what ultimately covers light and what repels darkness rather than revealing it. The green light is of Islam and spiritual growth. The golden light is of further and first-hand understanding. The ECK, and light displacing their images represents truth and spiritual experience, dispelling ignorance. The group with me are those who know and admit to the harsh truths of Eckankar. Those who shine forth light are the grateful. In the tarot, the Two of Wands was the card of that 10 or so day period. It is of dominion, a contest of wills, unexpressed creativity, courage, and initiative. The Goetia sigilia represent disassociation with evil and ignorance, while seeking to have the bad kept from oneself. These represent the banishing of Salas, or Salias, Person, Paimon, Ware, Gusian, Citri, Belth, or Beltia, or Belit, or Belith, or Belet, Laraja, or Lareka, or Leraia, or Leraya, or Lereia, or Oray, or Lore, Zepar, Batis, or Batis, Bathan, and their minions. The planetary attributes of these would be Venus, Sun, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Sun, Moon, Venus, and Mars. Mars and Mercury and Venus. The Shem, Ha, Maphorash, Sigilia represent being on the side of and aspiring to be as Luvia, Pahalia, Nekal, Iel, Malahel, Ha, Hiu, Ia, Nith, Ha'ia, Ha'ia, Erathel, Se, Hai'a, Raiel, Amal, Lakabel, Visi Aria. Oh, I mean, it's Amael. There's no ending these, but Iya, Uia, Laha, Hia, Chavakia, Manadel, Aniel, Ha'amia, Rahael, Iaazel, Hahel, Mikael, Ve'u Alia, El Aia, Se Alia, Airiel, Asal Ia, Mehael, Vehuel, Daniel, Ha Hesia, Imamia, Nanael, Nathanael, Mabahia, Hoel, Nemamia, Al Harahel, Mitzrael, Umabel, Ahel, and Auel, Demabia, Manakel, Iael, Habuia, Rakel, or Rochel, Ia, Haiael, Mumia, Vahuia, Lel, Sitael, Alemia, Mahasia, Lalahel, Acha'ea, Kahethel, Hasiel, Aladia, Lauvia, Haha'ia, Eez Al, Nabahel, Hariel, Hakamia, Lauvia, and Kaliel. In the same order, these 72 are given the meanings of who forgives, sinners of God, redemptor of God, one and unique of God, the right of God, who delivers the evil of God, good in himself of God, who gives wisdom of God, hidden of God, who punishes the wicked of God, who heals the ill of God, quick to the help of God, patient of God, inspiring of God, just of God, who knows all things of God, clement of God, who gives joy of God, adorable of God, virtues of God, the hope of all the children of the earth of God, who receives sinners of God, who rejoices of God, three persons of God, virtue or house or who is like God, dominating king of God, eternal God, mover of all things of God, revealing of God, who points to the throne of God, rescuing Father of God, belonging to God, not God's Father. Great and high of God, sign of mercy of God, concealed of God, raised above all things of God, who supports the universe of God, praiseworthy of God, who hears the generations of God, who knows all things of God, who comforts the oppressed of God, above all things of God, supreme being of God, infinitely good of God, who verifies all things of God, fountain of wisdom of God, who supports and maintains all things of God, delight of the children of men of God, who gives freely of God, who sees all of God, word produces all things of God, master of the universe of God, end of all things of God, elevated and exalted over all things of God, helpful of God, the hope of all creatures of God, hidden of God, savior of God, praiseworthy of God, good and patient of God, adorable of God, merciful of God, propitious of God, praised and exalted of God, refuge of God, glorified in all things of God, conservative of God, creator of God, who establishes the universe of God, admirable of God, and prompt to grant of God. In Aramaic, Aramea is how they actually pronounce it themselves. In Hebrew, names ending in al or yah carrying the meaning of God, as in, they're not divinities, they're siding with God in these issues. The names that start with the letter meme have a question as at least one of their meanings. The letter M. Other words and names thought of in a Christian or other detached way will not lead you to an understanding of the literal, lexical, or semantic meanings of the words or phrases. Although the mystical meanings may provide valid experiential translations, God is known through things that are in groups of three, blood and rescuing fathers, for example, just as I believe that the Goetic sigilia are not right to use as amulets or charms. Such is my belief for these 72 symbols. They may be effective ritual tools or talismans, which is different than a charm or an amulet, which are believed to have no power in themselves, but through their use. Just as I did with some of the Goetic and other symbols, it can prove very useful to figure out your own interpretations of their form. Whether or not that seems more effective in the short run, you may find it beneficial to Shem Maphorash practice in the long run. Huge.